Toy Story was released for the Sega Genesis on November 22nd, 1995, the same day the groundbreaking movie got its wide theatrical release. Versions for other platforms came later, and we'll cover those as well near the end, but this review will mainly be about the Sega version. When it comes to movie tie-in games, this is one of the more ambitious ones that I know of. It's much more than the simple 2D platformer it appears to be. The levels feature a shocking amount of variance in gameplay style, and many of the levels that are 2D platformers are mission-based, as opposed to the usual get all the way to the right side of the screen goal that most games in the genre are built on. The first thing you'll probably notice is the stunning 3D character models, a brand new thing for the Genesis, and the high level of presentation. The game takes great advantage of its license. Most of the levels are directly based off of scenes from the movie. 2 songs from Randy Newman's Oscar-nominated score are faithfully recreated in 16-bit glory. The game's original soundtrack is consistently good as well, and every level just oozes with imagery and theming that is unmistakably Toy Story. You get storybook-style cutscenes between levels and the option to turn them off if you'd rather just play the game. I'd never do that because they're cool, but having options is always a good thing in a game. I especially like that you can tweak the controls to your liking, a feature I believe all games should have. You play as Woody throughout the adventure, and the controls for running, jumping, and attacking with your pull string are perfectly smooth and fine-tuned. The only thing I struggled with were the parts that required Indiana Jones-style swinging from the pull string, but I honestly believe that that was more of a me problem than a game problem. Something about the rhythm necessary for this mechanic just threw me for a loop, but it doesn't really seem to affect anyone else, so yeah. Yeah, like I said, many of the levels are mission-based, like the one where you have to open this bucket of toy soldiers and knock down the baby monitor to recreate the birthday party scene from the movie. And race the clock to get the toys back into their places before Andy returns to his room, scale these high platforms to get over top of obstacles and clear a path for Rex. You get the idea. My favorites, though, are the pure platforming levels, like this one that takes place inside of the Pizza Planet claw machine, and the one that takes place on Sid's workbench. They're both extremely challenging, something we'll get more into later, and feature lots of really interesting elements, from moving and vanishing platforms, falling coins to dodge, monkey barring, propeller blades that test your pattern recognition, trial and error segments, times where the amount of hazards thrown at you at once are seemingly endless, and a grand finale to the workbench level where Sid burns your forehead with a magnifying glass, which forces you to run constantly without stopping until you reach the cereal bowl, like in the movie. These levels alone make the game a serious hidden gem for enthusiasts of hard-as-nails 2D platforming, and they bring out some of the game's details. You really notice how advanced the graphics are here, especially when Woody is teetering over the edge of platforms when you're trying to make those tough jumps. There are also 3 boss fights, 2 against Buzz, which seem hard at first but are pretty easy once you figure out what you're doing. Then there's the Claw. I hate this level. It's recognized by many as the toughest in the game, and I don't disagree. You have to stop the Claw from making off with Buzz by whipping the toy aliens at it, all while avoiding its attacks. The thing that makes it irritating is the swinging cable that boxes you in and screws you all up. It's comparable to, like, someone jerking your controller around while you're trying to play. You have to experience it to understand. I praised this game for its ambition, but in a way, that is its only major downfall. With this level of gameplay variety, there are bound to be some stumbles. There are these 2 top-down levels where you drive RC, and the controls are horrid. It's like RC Pro-Am, except it sucks. You have to collect batteries along the path to keep RC going, and the steering is all out of whack. It leads to moments like this. There's another RC level where it goes 3D, but it's more notable for being very technically impressive than it is fun to play. Speaking of technically impressive, there's also this first-person Doom-esque collection quest that just might be the most graphically advanced thing to ever appear on the Sega Genesis. From a gameplay perspective, though, it too is pretty boring. Other low points are this lousy stealth level at Pizza Planet and the auto-scrolling levels. Auto-scrolling levels are something I often like that a lot of people don't, but these are just ridiculous and unfair. Look at this. How is it even possible to get through here without taking hits? It at least ends on a high note, though. The final level where you fly through the sky with Buzz is fun and has a great feeling of finality to it, and not just because of the game and movie's narrative. It feels epic. This game is hard. Not hard for a kid's game. Hard. The levels themselves are nowhere near impossible with some practice and memorization, but there is a brutally low level of forgiveness. You only get a few lives and continues, and while you get some opportunities to earn more, it's not something that happens often, and when you lose them all, it's all the way back to the very beginning of the game. The most mind-blowing thing of all is that the game doesn't even refill your life bar after you beat a level. I have never heard of a game that doesn't do that. It's especially insane considering that the target audience here is presumably children. Thankfully, there is a code that allows you to skip levels. Without having the ability to skip over ones I had already beaten, I doubt that I would have had the patience to finish this. But you shouldn't have to do that. Look at how tedious it is just to skip a few levels to get back to where I was when I game overed. I generally think that all games should have unlimited continues, but especially adaptations of Disney films. The difficulty is also extremely uneven. The infamous Claw Boss, it's only about halfway through the game. The 3D driving stage, it's near the end and it's laughably easy. The final level isn't very hard either, and that's just a few examples of how all over the place the level of challenge is. Whatever. This is a good game for all of the previously mentioned reasons and more, and it's definitely worth playing. The month after its release, it came to the Super Nintendo, and it's mostly the same. It looks a lot more vibrant due to the console being more graphically advanced and supporting wider color palettes, and the sound is higher quality as well. There are some minor differences in presentation. The menus and storybook sequences look a little different, and for some bizarre reason, Randy Newman's You've Got a Friend in Me isn't included. The single most iconic Toy Story song is missing. This version only has Strange Things. The biggest difference though is with the control. It isn't as good. It feels stiff, and I swear the jump button doesn't register sometimes. For that reason alone, I feel the Sega version is better. Also, the 3D driving level is completely absent from the Super Nintendo version. It's not a very good level anyway, so you wouldn't be missing much, but still, I'd rather not have a level missing. It took Toy Story several months to get ported to the Game Boy. This one only has 10 of the 18 levels found in the Genesis original, but you can't expect a Game Boy port to not be condensed, so you can't knock it for that. What you can knock it for, however, is that the control is horrible. Every time you jump, it's like you're on the moon. It's stiff and delayed, and sometimes basic things from the other games just don't work. What am I supposed to do to get these blocks out of the way? Whipping them worked just a little earlier in the level. Is this a glitch? The graphics are very technically impressive considering the limitations of the hardware, but it isn't even remotely nice to look at, and the sound just pierces your ears. So yeah, I cannot recommend this one at all. There are loads of great Game Boy games out there, but not many of them are watered-down ports of console games. Almost a whole year after the first version of the game was released, it received its final port for Windows PCs. I don't know a whole lot about this version and I haven't actually played it. I only know that it lacks the Doom-esque 3D alien collecting, but includes the 3D driving that the Super Nintendo didn't have. The consensus on this one is that it's an inferior port with clunky controls. Don't quote me on that though, because again, I haven't played it. If you get a hold of it and still have a PC with Windows 95 to run it, or you download old games from abandonware sites and tweak your newer PCs to play them on there, you can let me know. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing, leaving a thumbs up, sharing, and ringing the bell so you don't miss any future videos. This has been a Leaky Faucet review. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.